Hello and welcome to this webcast series that we've started, which we like to call From the CISO's Lens. I'm Prateek, Strategy Manager at InstaSafe, and I have with me Mr. Prasad T, who is the Chief Information Security Officer at InstaSafe and an acclaimed subject matter expert in the field of ethical hacking and zero trust security. So we have a very insightful session on the cards where Prasad will be taking you through what exactly zero trust is. And of course, during the course of our discussions, we did come across a set of very pertinent questions that often most of our customers ask us. And some of these questions were, what is zero trust and what exactly is it not? And why do modern organizations today need to consider implementing a zero trust security approach? And how does an organization achieve a zero trust approach? So these are basically some of the questions that, of course, Prasad will be touching upon. So yeah, over to you, Prasad.
Thank you, Pradeep. So, as we know, IT infrastructure has gone through decades of evolution, and the problem that we're discussing right now here is the application access and remote access of the network assets that belong to a company, which is part of again IT infrastructure. This whole area has gone through a lot of evolution. Like in initial days, we shared the access via, like we protected the access via passwords. Later, moved on to firewall level of protection, then VPN, and now we are talking about the next level of protection that can be enabled using the zero trust network. Earlier, we had most of these devices, network, and every other software elements as part of a single LAN network. In many cases, all these were residing within the organization's walls. Like for external user or hacker, it was not easy to get to know about the presence of this network or later think about infiltrating into it. But now, as we know, most of these software pieces have gone out of the organization and they are residing in the cloud environments or multiple data center environments as part of multiple networks, right? And the users and devices are also mostly remotely accessing these assets, adding to the complexity of it. And we are also seeing a lot of insider attacks. The insider attacks can come from one of these users, or it could be coming from a hacker who takes over one of the user devices. It's easy for an organization to track down its own laptops, at least to an extent. But in nowadays, as we know, we cannot go behind every user who's an employee, who's a vendor, or any other external user who's accessing the employee's assets. So, how to ensure safety and security of these devices is becoming a big challenge. And in nowadays, most of the organizations are giving access to the assets using VPN technology. And VPN technology has its own issues, right? In terms of cost as well as security. Why I touched upon the cost is because if the organization has to share multiple applications and multiple networks, each of it has to go through a separate VPN infrastructure as it is. Otherwise, we have to share a big, large chunk of network if they are into same place. In most of the cases, since applications are spreading across multiple environments, we end up keeping multiple VPN servers, adding to the cost, adding to the support and other areas. And when it comes to security posture of this infrastructure, there are a few big challenges out there. I would like to touch upon some of them. And most of these VPN technologies have open endpoints like URL endpoints, which have non-vulnerabilities. I myself did demo to many of my other fellow CISOs and my colleagues across the industry, where I could actually showcase getting into a open VPN network or another, I don't want to name them, but many other VPN vendors networks using their own non-vulnerabilities. These source codes are available out in the internet. It's very easy to execute. It's just all about adding your username, password, IP address, and shoot. It's that simple, right? And just not about endpoints. The VPN technologies have its own issues where most often they disclose a set of IP address or set of application all together as part of one VPN network. For a hacker who tries to get into one machine, the one right after getting into the machine, the next mission for him would be to spread, to understand how much he can gather or how many machines he can get into, right? So for a VPN technology, when a set of machines and network is shared, it's very easy for a hacker to understand the presence of other machines in the network, understand the weakest among them, or use his own tools to spread. Now, how to stop the spread, or how to make sure that each of these users' access is being taken care in a much effective fashion, right? This is what is Zero Trust is addressing. How Zero Trust has done it? Zero Trust has made sure that all the pillars of access has been taken care. For example, you need to take care of the user's posture, you need to take care of the device posture, you need to make sure that the network is taken care of, like in terms of encryption and other aspects, and we need to securely share your application to the end user, right? Each of these areas is being taken care by Zero Trust. For example, for a user, in other words, Zero Trust makes sure that none of the users can be trusted, right? Every user that's connecting to the network, connecting to the application, should be treated as an untrusted user until the user, device, and the whole access has been confirmed and verified by the infrastructure. In other words, Zero Trust network access makes sure that the user is validated by his own username and password and a multi-factor authentication. Also, it ensures that the device is validated in terms of a set of predefined security posture. When I say predefined security posture, it could be like whether the operating system inside the machine is of a particular version or not, or whether a particular antivirus is present there or not, or it could be a geolocation based validation, like the access should be coming from Bangalore city or any other location for that matter, or a working hours is the only time in which the employee or the user can access the application. These are very important because, as we know, we would have seen your Facebook account got access to by someone in some other country in the other part of the world, right? So when we have a geolocation kind of verification, it often saves our IT infrastructure from hackers. Just not these, right? There are other technology pieces coming along with Zero Trust. For example, it really calls for a control plane and a data plane to be involved in it. In other words, we are making sure that there is a separate device or separate network which validates the user, which validates the device, and ensure the elements are legitimate. After that, establishing a direct connectivity between the user laptop or user device and the application directly. In other words, we have one mechanism to validate the connectivity is perfect. Once it's identified it's a perfect and legitimate one, we are directly establishing a connection from the user device to the application. And it flows directly without anyone in between. There is no network delays that we can call for. And yeah, so there are a few more aspects I would like to touch upon. Along with Zero Trust network access that NIST has put forward or Forrester has come out with, there are many other evolution on top of that, or many other architectural proposal which made on top of Zero Trust. One example is SDP. So now InstaSafe makes sure that our ZTAA solution is completely adhering to Zero Trust network access, Zero Trust architecture put forward by NIST, and SDP architecture put forward by CSA. Now, how SDP change it? SDP actually add few elements into it and making sure that it is more robust and safe. For example, SDP has come out with technologies such as single packet authorization and dropout firewall, and it also ensured that the traffic that's flowing between the user device and the application should be highly encrypted with technologies like MTLS. How it helps? Okay, let me talk about SPA and single packet authorization and dropout firewall a bit. It really calls for completely blackening away the IT infrastructure and the elements that we're installing as part of Zero Trust implementation. In other words, if you're exposing your web server or SAP over to the internet because your employees have to access it, the Zero Trust network gateway from InstaSafe or any other Zero Trust vendor come and sit in front of the application. And after that, it hides itself from the internet by enabling a dropout firewall. When dropout firewall is enabled, any other network request coming to the firewall is dropped. Even for tools like Nmap cannot probe the presence of the device. Okay, then how a user can access it is a good question that we can ask at this point. That is where the single packet authorization comes into play. When the user sent a legitimate packet with authentication information, obviously when the packet reaches the destination, it will be dropped, but the dropped packet will be analyzed by the gateway and validated against legitimate information that they have. Once identified accurate, the firewall rule will be established so that the end user can connect to the application. In other words, the whole IT infrastructure is completely blackened away from the internet, and only a legitimate device or user device which sent the exact authentication packet will be able to connect to it or establish a TCP connection to it. And yeah, and when this traffic is tunneled via MTLS, it adds to the encryption technology on top of it and making sure that nobody can come in as a man in the middle because it's a mutually created TLS connectivity. And one more thing I would like to cover up here, which I missed in the past, is every user connection to the application is created via a separate tunnel in Zero Trust technology, right? Why that is done? Assuming that a hacker is able to hack into your device or even to the application, it is very important to make sure his spread is locked. Basically, we're containing an attack, and a user's access is limited to what he should know, or the least what he should know at the least level, right? That is what has been achieved by having a separate tunnel established for each of the user access to the application. And we're also making sure that the policies that we're defining in the Zero Trust network access mechanism at the controller level is controlling each user's and each group's access at the granular level for the application. I think I covered most of it that I wanted to cover. And I think we have talked about a user's scenario. We talked about how safely we can share an application over to the internet using STP technology. Yeah. So in other words, we have all of these, Pratik, with us in InstaSafe.
Right. Right.
InstaSafe solutions are completely adhering to SDP and NIST. And moreover, we have added the technology pieces like InstaSafe TOTP authenticator and InstaSafe on IDP to manage the user or user database rather. And we also have support for protocols like SSH and RDP at the layer 3 and layer 4. Though, I mean, these pieces are little outside SDP, and we have added to it to ensure that InstaSafe is able to provide a complete access management solution. There is no need for a second vendor coming in when we are implementing a user access. Yeah, that's all I wanted to cover. I think I.
Thank you so much, Prasad. So, of course, this was just an overview of what a zero trust model does and what the SDP implementation of or operationalization of the zero trust model is, and how. In the next few sessions, of course, we'll be covering in detail as to what exactly the VPN vulnerabilities are, including a live hacking session by Prasad himself. And of course, we'll be doing a comparative analysis of an SDP implementation against, say, a reverse proxy implementation of a zero trust model, amongst other things. So thank you so much, Prasad, for such an insightful session. And we'll be continuing with some more such insightful sessions in the future as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
For it. Let's do it. Yeah. Bye.